No, not for council. That was only for the budget meeting. Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Obviously, Mayor Badaway is away again. I'm hoping that he gets well real quick so he can have his seat back. It's a little more comfortable. I like the view from over there better. So hopefully he's back. The next meeting, which is on the 25th of today, the 11th, 25th of March. So we're looking forward to his return then. We'll start tonight's meeting with a prayer from Councillor Doucette, and follow that with the national anthem from Joel Longfellow.
Notre Sauveur, nous voici réunis pour le bien de nos citoyens. Permettez-nous d'écouter avec justice et compréhension afin de prendre de bonnes décisions pour le plus grand nombre de notre communauté. On demande aussi que tous les conducteurs prennent patience sur nos rues. Nos enfants sont sur la rue jouer pendant la semaine du mois de mars. Amen.
Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Now we go through the three things. On tonight's agenda, we are following three different agendas. The first is a public hearing meeting. The second will be the Committee of the Whole meeting, followed that by our regular council meeting. And we're looking for a confirmation of the agenda for the public meeting. Mover, Councillor Steele, Councillor Doucette, all in favor? And that'll be carried. Any disclosures of interest? And I have one. I have a non-pecuniary interest in the bylaw as, how do I want to put it? I participate in one of the events that the bylaw pertains to. So we will have Councillor Desmarais take the seat while we hold the public meeting. And Councillor Desmarais.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on with a public hearing under the Planning Act application for a zoning bylaw amendment. Department of Planning and Development, report number 2013-10. Subject, public hearing report for proposed housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment. File number D140512.
Thank you, Ms. Acting Deputy Mayor. The purpose of this meeting, pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act, is to consider an application to amend the City of Port Colborne zoning bylaw 1150/97/81 is amended. The zoning amendment is a proposed housekeeping amendment initiated by City Planning staff. Minor amendments to the zoning bylaw are proposed to add new provisions and correct technical errors. Notice of the public meeting was administered in accordance with Section 34, subsections 12, 13, and 14 of the Planning Act as amended, and Section 3 of Ontario Regulation 545/06. The notice of public meeting was published in the Import News on February 14th, 2013, and circulated on February 15th, 2013 to review agencies. The procedure to be followed this evening will be to present Department of Planning and Development Report 2013-10, receive questions of clarification from council to planning staff, open the meeting to the public for comments and questions, announce the requirements under the Planning Act for written notice of passage of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and a brief explanation of future meetings regarding the application. At this time, I would like to present Planning and Development Public Hearing Report 2013-10. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with information about the proposed general housekeeping amendment to zoning bylaw 1150/97/81 as indicated earlier. On May 14th, 2012, council expressed a desire to amend the zoning bylaw to allow special events held by charitable organizations after it was brought to their attention that the Port Cares 3 Buds in a Bunkie event was not permitted in the zoning bylaw. Additional minor amendments to the zoning bylaw have been identified by planning staff. In order to address the amendments, staff have prepared the proposed housekeeping amendment, which proposes to amend the city zoning bylaw by adding new provisions and correcting technical errors. The details of the proposed amendments are in Appendix A to the report for council's information. Specific changes include the addition of Section 4.12D, which will allow a special event held by a charitable organization, provided that any temporary buildings or structures incidental to the event meet the minimum requirements of the applicable zone and remain on the land only during the duration of the special event. The addition of Section 4.28, which will require a minimum setback of 9 meters from the top of bank of a municipal drain for any structure, and the addition of Schedule F to the bylaw, which is a map showing the location of all municipal drains. The addition of Section 18.2A, which will permit parking lots as a permitted use in the highway service commercial zone. The addition of Section 22.2A, which will permit a crematorium as a permitted use in the light industrial zone. Revisions to Section 4.23, which will make the width requirements for handicap parking spaces consistent with Ontario Traffic Manual guidelines. This is an increase from 3.5 meters in width to 3.7 meters in width. A deletion from Section 30B and change to Schedule A4 to the bylaw, which will remove the HD-12 sawmill zone from the hamlet of Bethel at the request of the property owner. The addition of new definitions to Section 31 to support the amendments that have been described above. Revisions to the definition of recreational vehicle in Section 31 to remove bicycles and other human-powered devices. And finally, revisions to Schedule A2 to fix an error in mapping which zoned residential properties along Oakwood Street and Main Street West as institutional. As of today, no written comments have been received from any members of the public, and the following comments have been received from agencies. From City Engineering and Operations and the Bylaw Enforcement Division, no adverse comments. From the Niagara Region Development Services Division, there are no provincial or regional interests and therefore no comments on the housekeeping amendment, with the exception of the proposed Section 4.12D for special events by a charitable organization. Development Services has no objection to providing permissions for special events within the city's urban area, subject to local planning requirements and consideration of impacts to local and regional roads, servicing issues, land use conflict, and any provision for food handling and storage. These issues can be addressed through the city's permitting process for special events. With respect to special events in the agricultural area, the city should ensure that any special event is consistent with the region's plan farm diversification policies. In this regard, the proposed zoning provisions should include an appropriate limit on the size of any temporary structures, such as tents, as well as on the number and duration of events in order to address any potentially regularly occurring event. It is also acknowledged that the city's new official plan, which includes policies supporting value-added agricultural activities, states that the city will review and update the agricultural policies to reflect the regional plan's policies, allowing for a greater range of value-added activities than those currently permitted in the city's plan. Further changes to the bylaw with respect to special events would be anticipated when this future update is undertaken. This now concludes the presentation of Planning and Development Report 2013-10. The zoning bylaw amendment is necessary to correct errors and add new provisions and uses to the zoning bylaw. The Planning Division will provide council with its recommendation report after comments have been received from the public hearing and the review agencies. This report will be available at a future council meeting for council's consideration. At this time, Ms. Acting Deputy Mayor, are there any questions of clarification for myself?
Thank you, Shannon. Councilor Bodner?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Shannon. Just a request. When we get this report, we have an existing section that is there and a proposed section, and they could be 20 to 25 lines long. I wonder if it's possible in the proposed section whether you could highlight or staff could highlight the word changes in that. For people like me to like to read through it, you got to go line by line on each one to see where the change is, and it may only be a few words in it. So is that possible?
Through you, Ms. Acting Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Bodner, that's certainly something we can do in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Do we have any oral presentations from the public? No, we don't. Any questions of staff? Okay, no. All right. So we have, okay, so you will now explain the
I will read
future meetings?
the legal statements. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Port Colborne to the Ontario Municipal Board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If there are any interested members of the public tonight, there is a sign-in sheet at the back of the room that you could sign to request future notices regarding this application. And since there is nobody making oral presentations, if you wish to be notified of the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the clerk. Only those persons and public bodies that give the clerk a written request for the notice of passing of a bylaw will be given notice. This concludes the public hearing under the Planning Act. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting for council's consideration.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Okay, Council, can we get a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Doucette and Councillor Bodner, thank you very much. All in favor? Yeah, we're adjourned.
Thank you to Councillor Desmarais. We'll continue on with the Committee of the Whole meeting. And are there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There are two addendum items this evening. The first is correspondence from Josephine Davies dated March 7, 2013 in support of the application for the heritage designation of the Abraham Ramey homestead. And copies of this correspondence have been distributed to council and staff. The second is the addition of Community and Corporate Services Report 2013-6 concerning the Municipal Infrastructure Investment Initiative and funding for an asset management plan. This report is added on your agenda as item 13, and it has also been distributed on your desks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looking for a mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda. Councillor Danch, Councillor Steele, all in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Any disclosures of interest? Seeing none. Items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Desmarais?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor. I'd like to entertain items 5 and 7, please.
Any other items? Councillor Danch?
Just item 4, please.
Any other items? Councillor Bodner?
Item 6.
Anything else? Seeing none. Look for a motion to approve the rest of the items in bulk. Councillor Doucette, seconder. Councillor Steele. All in favor? That'll be carried. And no presentations tonight. We do have one delegation. That will be with respect to item number 5. Item number 5, I'm sorry. Lost my glasses. Roseanne Shields is here. She is. Welcome. You'll have a chance to speak when that item is lifted. There is no mayor's report, so quickly we'll move on to the regional councilor's report. Councillor Barrick.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure why the meetings seem to flow so much quickly when you're chairing there. No presentations, delegations tonight. Yeah. So this evening I have to present the region's Community Climate Change Action Plan and the Corporate Climate Change Action Plan. I happen to be the region's contact for Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partnership for Climate Change. And so there's been a lot of work done. It started back in 2006. So there's a few milestones. The initial thing that we had to do as a region and in partnership with many municipalities across Canada was to create a greenhouse gas emissions inventory and forecast for the region, and that was both the regional facilities, regional fleet, but then also the Niagara region at large as a community. We also set an emissions reduction target, developed a local action plan and how to reduce those greenhouse gases, implement a local action plan or set of activities, and monitor progress and reporting results. So the target settings that we had are essentially, for our corporate target, is 0% growth in greenhouse gas emissions in 2016 from a 2006 baseline. So basically in 2006 we were able to capture all the data of where we stood in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and using that as the baseline, we want to move forward with a 0% growth. I think is a realistic target. Of course, a negative growth would be preferred. Two specific action plans again, and I bring this forward to this council more so for the Environmental Advisory Committee, so I'll be handing these off to the Environmental Advisory Committee locally here as well. But the Community Climate Change Action Plan and the Corporate Climate Change Action Plan, both within it have specific action items on how to reduce and target. So I'll leave those with you. Some of the priority actions are related to local food. In particular, the region has Good Food Box program, sustainable building practices or built form and transportation, community engagement and outreach. We look at energy, waste, and adaptation and other initiatives for the community. For the corporate action plan, which is regional owned facilities and regional fleet, we look at our buildings, so we do heating and lighting retrofits, have energy strategies, sustainability training for our staff. With regards to transportation, we have implemented a hybrid vehicle replacement, and of course, looking at optimization of our water, wastewater facilities and corporate waste as well. Next steps essentially is to action these plans that we've set, to have ongoing reporting, and ultimately in 2017, a cumulative report on both the community and corporate emissions to see where we are and how we've done. Now, you may recall, Deputy Mayor, the region has named itself as the Green Energy Capital of Canada. So I do believe that this plan, both of these plans, fit within the theme that we've set. It certainly reduces energy usage, it cuts emissions, and it saves money. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win all around. So once again, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'll leave these with staff. Again, they identify very particular action plans that perhaps the City of Port Colborne can also take a look at through their Environmental Advisory Committee. That's my report this evening, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Councillor Barrick? Seeing none, I do have one question. And I talked to Dave about this just previously. It was in the news last week that Niagara Falls is reporting that MPAC has reassessed the value of the casino with a negative impact towards their property taxes payable. They've basically reassessed it at half its value, which will negatively impact the taxes that they pay to the city of Niagara Falls. And they're in the region of Niagara, and I was just wondering, Dave, if you could make comment on what the position of the region is, along with the position that you know of the city of Niagara Falls. This could have a ripple effect with the surrounding businesses and properties located in the area of the casino, and that as well could have a negative impact on the on revenues as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate the question. There has been some news media related to this issue ongoing. It does impact regional taxpayers at large, and specifically the city of Niagara Falls, because they get hit both on their local municipal taxes as well as the regional end. It is a concern. Essentially, OLG, or the casino, being an arm of the province doesn't really pay property taxes. However, they do pay what's called a payment in lieu of taxes. OLG's casino, the website states that that particular property that you speak about, the new casino, is valued at $1 billion. They've been assessed at $500 million and have been paying payment in lieu based on the $500 million. And as you noted, that assessment's been reduced by half to $250 million. So for us and for residents in Port Colborne as well, that means to a degree we're subsidizing the casino property, because I believe the province has not met its financial obligations to us here in Niagara. For the Niagara region, we knew that this was coming, so we put aside $1.1 million added to the tax levy for 2013. There's still a shortfall of $1.9 million, and for that balance, we've adjusted the tax rates to try to compensate for the year end. Now, the city of Niagara Falls and the region will be appealing that decision. The greater concern, though, as you may have mentioned as well, is the opportunities that many of the major hotels and, quite frankly, any major property owner in Niagara can now appeal and point to that decision, which could have an impact on all of us. And I think it should be a bit of a wake-up call for us as a region as well. It seems that every time we face a financial situation or crisis, the knee-jerk reaction and response tends to be to increase revenues, increase taxes, increase rates. So I think it's a good opportunity to take a good hard look at where we can reduce expenditures as well moving forward. So this isn't just $3 million this year, it's $3 million every year moving forward that's been lost, and we need to either recoup, which they're doing in 2013 by pushing the load over to residential and other commercial properties in Niagara. But moving forward, I think it's time to implement a strategy to finding efficiencies and reducing the expenditure side of the ledger. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Deputy Mayor, but the city of Niagara Falls and the region have partnered to appeal this decision to the province.
Thanks, Councillor Barrick. Any questions to Councillor Barrick? Peter, comment on that as well?
Just in addition to that, it definitely is something that's not directly affecting Port Colborne, but it will and could affect Port Colborne indirectly through the regional tax levy, as Councillor Barrick mentioned. We don't know what the effects are going to be on that. I know the region has earmarked some funds for that, knowing it was coming. Same as City of Niagara Falls set aside funds for the refunds that they have to put forward. But the immediate concern is what's going to happen this year, and the region, does have other options, and they are looking at them through tax policy, and so they are looking at that. And I believe it's something they have to still finalize the tax ratios, tax policies, and so on. So that'll be coming forward fairly shortly at the region also, which may mitigate some of that those losses going forward, but you're not going to be able to mitigate, you know, all of the revenue loss there.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Any other questions? No? Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Could you just keep an eye on that appeal and maybe bring a report back when there's a decision, or if you hear anything that's going on at the OMB? Thanks. Councillors, items, new business? Anybody? Councillor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just so that if everyone, if someone hasn't been by the skateboard park, by the way, we've got a soft opening. The 3 days that I know of that it's been open, it's been shoulder to shoulder in that thing. The whole day. I haven't seen my grandson in 3 days. He leaves early in the morning, comes back when it gets dark. Okay? That place is being used like you wouldn't believe. And all I hear from them, and I went to talk to some of the young people on the park itself, they are absolutely ecstatic at the fact that it's open, they can go on it, and they say it's the best there is. They've never seen a park like this before. So all I can say is, as Mr. Deputy Mayor mentioned at one point while we were discussing it, if we build it, will they go? Guess what? They're there.
Thank you, Councillor Doucette. And as far as will they go, I really enjoyed going past the skate park and seeing everybody there, and I drove past the Compass on West Street, and it was vacant. So it had the effect. As long as they stay at the skate park, we're happy downtown. It was. I couldn't believe how many kids were there. It really has an impact, and it should be even better when we get the rest of the fence down and open it up. So the one thing I had a concern about, I saw one garbage can at the gate to get in. Do we have more there than just the one, or are we going to provide more? That was one concern I had.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, we do. We actually requested 2 cans, and we may even have more put out there, just so that we can eliminate some of the debris that's building up. So I know that the park staff responded early this morning to clean the park up following the weekend. So I think we're going to address it as best we can.
Okay. Thanks, Harry. I saw a couple of kids that were riding their bikes, and they had the plastic bottles and everything like that, and I didn't know if we had receptacles and stuff like that there for them, and it was a concern because we opened so quick whether or not we had facilities to take it. So any other items, new items? Councillor Butters?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just a couple things. I've been getting some calls about the Friendship Trail running from Port Colborne to Fort Erie. Since the snow is gone, the snowmobile activity has eased way off, but now we've got horses on the trail, and apparently they shouldn't be there. And then the next thing, of course, will be motorcycles. So I wondered if there was signage on that section of trail that says no horses. One of the folks at the community center in Shirkston was actually called by a group that wanted to trailer their horses and use the community center's parking lot to then unload horses and go use a trail, and that they were told, no, that's not okay. So I wondered about signage to remind people, and also in terms of some kind of enforcement or what we can do to get the message across. If staff has any brilliant ideas on that one, I'd appreciate it. And then I have 2 more things.
Mr. Hanson, Mr. King, either? Go ahead. Thanks.
Through you, Acting Mayor, we'll follow up with Councillor Butters and get back to you tomorrow on it. There is a lot of signage on the trail, and I know for a fact that horses have been a problem. They'll do a lot of damage to the paved trail, and I think they're obviously a danger to people that are walking and bicycling on the trail as well. So we'll follow up with that with an appropriate response.
Thanks, Ron. Councillor Butters?
And keeping in line with animals, the coyotes have been very active out in our area, wandering up and down, if you can believe, the Shirkston Road. They've been sighted. They were in the fields across Highway 3 from near my place, just ambling across. So I just want to remind people to make sure that you're securing your garbage properly, your compost. Coyotes are opportunistic creatures, so if you have cats or small dogs, that could be lunch if you leave them outside unattended. So please be very, very cautious and careful in securing your garbage and compost. Your small animals, don't leave them outside. Right now, the pups will start being born with the coyotes, and they will be looking for food sources. So it's important to try to find a way to live in a peaceable way with these creatures, but you don't want them near your home or your children or your pets. I would urge anybody that sees them quite regularly, you know, get a motion light set up in your yard. That can kind of discourage them from coming up too close when you have a lit area as well. So please, folks, be careful out there. And my last one is also about animals. It's like an animal night. This Friday night on the 15th, the Port Colborne Feline Initiative has got a fundraiser happening called Baldacious, which will happen at Bridget's Laundromat. There's 4 different individuals who have wonderfully volunteered to shave their heads, and there's like beards that are going and a mustache that's been on for 20 years. And if we can raise another few $100s, apparently some of these guys are even going to have their legs shaved. So it's just crazy. We're at a tipping point where if we can raise another $130 and reach this other mark, that will bring us another $500 into the kitty. Don't mind the pun. So thanks to my fellow councillors for contributing, and anybody else who has money they want to throw in my very stylish baggie. I will be happy to get it to Baldacious for you. If you go on the computer, you can also go to CanadaHelps.org to donate that way, or give me a call, and I'm happy to pick up money for the event. So we're doing really well, and we've got 575 cats snootered in Port Colborne, which is pretty awesome, and we want to be able to do more. So thanks.
I'll bite and say thank you, Councillor Butters. That was perfect. It's a slow night tonight, so any other new items, Councillor Danch?
I'll try and pick her up a notch there, Deputy Mayor. I believe my questions are for Mr. Hanson tonight. We have a sign out in front of State Farm Insurance. The only thing that is left is the peg. We don't know what it said, whether it said to turn right or go home, but if they could look into that for us, we'd appreciate it. And the lights are out on Main Street from Mellenby to the bridge. There's nothing. Hasn't been for about a week. It's not just the street lights and the snowflakes, it's everything. So if we could have a little peek at that, I'm sure there's an electrical issue there somewhere. Other than that, that's about all I have to say. No pun.
Ron?
Through Acting Mayor, we're looking at the GFI issue on the poles on Main Street West with regards to the decorative lighting. And now I understand there's some issues with the street lighting as well. So we've been in contact with the manufacturer, and we're trying to get a solution on this. So again, we'll get back to you with a response on this at the appropriate time.
Thanks. Any other items? New business? Councillor Bodnar?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just thank you to Sherkson Community Center. They put on their first, which will be an annual thing, chili and bean cook-off. And it was very well attended. 7 entries in the chili and 5 in the beans. Councillor Butters was entered in the bean, and I picked her as first, but she came in third, which was pretty darn good. It was a blind tasting, so we didn't know who made it, but I'm still feeling the effects of eating 7 in beans. So if you can make the meeting as short as you can, Mr. Mayor, or Deputy Mayor, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, noted and taken under advisement. Councillor Butters.
I just want you all to know, though, that my beans did not cause that, because my husband was very particular about poking holes in each one of those beans to let the air out before they got served.
Getting back on track. Any other new items? New business? Any reports, updates from staff? Anything that's come up? Yes?
Yes.
We're waiting.
All of the above.
Through you, Deputy
Mr.
Mayor.
Keaton.
We had a meeting this morning just to discuss some of the parking challenges over at the Valet Health and Wellness Center, especially with the upcoming events, particularly with the Junior Bs moving on to the second round. So we discussed it this morning, and I think there's some measure of understanding that we have to address it in terms of educating the public. One of the things that we're going to do is also solicit support from the Junior Bs, make them understand that there should be some public service announcements perhaps through their building during games when they have opportunities to just make the public aware when they're attending the facility that to be cognizant of the fact that the fire lanes have to be vacated. I'm not sure about the enforcement side yet. We discussed that, but there was some trepidation because of the value that the center is providing, obviously with the attendance and the use, particularly with the news that the YMCA has broken around 1,800 mark for membership today. So it's actually that much more of an anxiety feeling right now with the parking situation. Other than that, I think, I don't know if Ron has anything else to add, but it's something that we have to seriously consider how we're going to address the parking issues.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hanson, anything to add?
Just to add to Harry's comments, we're planning on speaking to the bylaw enforcement people this week, and the thought process is, and there's going to be a little cost involved with it, the thought process is for the events like the Junior B games on a Friday night. They're obviously very busy out there, so thought would be to get the bylaw enforcement officer out there, put some warnings out, and help the people to adjust to the fire routes and the proper parking locations in there, and do that sort of as an introductory way without going to tickets at this point in time.
Thanks, Ron.
I have one other item, Deputy Mayor. Unless there's comments on it.
Yeah, just speaking to that, I did go last week to the Fort Erie game, and parking's an issue. And I noticed that it's a real issue on the stone section because we don't have any defined parking spots. Are we going to put anything down on the stones that would kind of define, make a line where you can park on either side of the line, or define parking stalls? Because it was just random where people were parking, and there was actually a couple of cars that were blocked in because people had parked behind them, so you had 3 cars in a row, and the middle guy couldn't get out. So I was just wondering if we're going to address that situation.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, one of the things we'd like the bylaw people to do is help with the parking at the start of the game, so we get people in the right designated areas. It's difficult because it's a gravel section, so we can't paint in obviously the designated parking stalls. So moving forward, if that parking area gets paved in the future, we'll get the designated spots. We'll make it a little easier. But in the interim, we'll get people out there assist in the larger events to have people park.
Okay, thanks.
And one other item,
yep.
We've handed out a notice of a temporary road closure to members of council. We just want to make the public aware that there's a requirement to connect our new water main on Clarence Street that's connecting to the main at Steele Street. It's a very busy arterial intersection, and we want to take advantage of the fact that Steele Street School is closed this week, and it'll have very little impact on school buses and so on if we get it done this week. So there's going to be a detour set up from Wednesday till Friday at the intersection of Clarence and Steele Street, and it'll be open at night but closed during the day to all traffic. All the proper detour signs will be in place, and we're placing a notice in the paper today or tomorrow that will give the public notice on the detour. Just want to make everybody aware of it.
Thanks, Ron. Councillor Demeray?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor. Through you to Ron. Ron, I wanted to go back to the parking issues at the Valet Health and Wellness Center. I'm wondering if during the hockey games or through when there's larger events, could we not have some kind of parking attendants in place? It would just, as volunteers or possibly supplied by whatever event is going on, just to help people move things along and get properly parked, because it is a real problem.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that's one of the issues we discussed today. We had a staff meeting today regarding some of the issues at the Valet Center. And certainly, as we did at the opening weekend on February 16th, we had people out there assisting with the parking. And we think it would be very beneficial to do that during the larger events when we expect there's going to be a capacity crowd at the facility. So that's one of the issues. And we think that, you know, really the people putting on the event should assist with the cost of doing this.
Sure. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. One thing I forgot to talk about when I talked about the skateboard park is that I'm hoping that those that are watching realize that the skateboard park is supposed to be open from sunrise to sunset. The reason I'm saying that is I went by 11 o'clock one night this week while they were open, and there must have been, well, there were lots of young adults, I shouldn't say children, young adults there at 11 o'clock at night. Officially, it's from sunrise to sunset. Okay? And the other thing I forgot to do is thank the parents. You should have seen the parents there watching to make sure that everything was going okay. That was something really, really interesting as well. And I found that really, really helpful to the way things functioned. And all I can say is thank you to those parents. I forgot that, and I think that's important.
Thanks, Councillor Doucette. Councillor Danch.
Sorry, I believe this one's going to go towards Harry there. What happened to our sign at the Valet? I haven't seen it lit up for quite some time there. It seems to be dormant.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. The sign isn't powered yet. It should be powered this week. There's an issue with the, there's two lines going on. There's a power line to the pylon sign and there's a data line. The data line, the line to pull it through is frozen. We have to wait till the ground thaws on it. But the power is there, and we're looking at the electrician to power it up this week.
Good. Any other items? Seeing none? We've got adoption of minutes. There's 2 minutes that we will pass tonight. Minutes of the 5th meeting special, the Committee of the Whole, dated February the 5th, 2013, and the minutes of the 7th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated February the 25th, 2013. Look for a mover and a seconder on those. Councillor Butters, Councillor Steele. All in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. Items requiring separate discussion. Item 4, Councillor Danch.
Department of Engineering and Operations, Public Works Division, report number 2013-9, subject supply of one new backhoe loader. That the Council of the City of Port Colborne award quotation 2013-03 to Nortrax Canada Incorporated of Stony Creek, Ontario for the total bid price of $98,181.10, including applicable harmonized sales tax, and that the Director of Engineering and Operations be authorized to issue a purchase order to Nortrax Canada Incorporated.
First, seconder on that. Councillor Steele. Questions or comments? Councillor Danch.
A little talk with Ron today, and I've got my questions answered, but I just want the public to be so notified there. The question being, were the hydraulics going to be on this machine so that they could hook up the whole ram to this with a lot of tear down and whatnot? And I believe Ron can answer that question for me. And the other thing was the trade-in value that we were receiving for our old piece of equipment. I went on Kijiji and I looked at some of the other things that were comparable to the piece of equipment that we're trading in, and what I saw was going for the $18,000, $19,000 range, and what Ron's about to report, I believe, is much higher. So thank you. That's my only thing.
Mr. Hanson.
Through you, Acting Mayor. The trade-in value, the list price, as shown in the report, the list price $109,310 for this particular backhoe. The trade-in value is $24,000. We were very pleased to get that amount on the trade-in for the backhoe that we're trading, for the total price of $85,310 plus HST on it. So we feel we're recommending this particular backhoe, and I can in partially answer to Councillor Danish's concerns. Our policy is in operations that we have the mechanics thoroughly go over the demonstrator models to ensure that it'll do what we want to do in terms of the work. The operators have tested this machine. They're satisfied with it, supervisors are satisfied, and it'll really do the job for us. In terms of the hydraulics, we did have this particular machine plumbed to put the whole ram on it as well. So the roads backhoe will have the whole ram capability as well. So this really does the job for us.
Thank you, Ron. Councillor Danch?
Thank you, Ron.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? That'll be carried. Item 5, Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor. Department of Planning and Development, report number 2013-11, subject request for heritage designation for property located at 352 Chippewa Road under the Ontario Heritage Act, page number 55. That the Council of the City of Port Colborne respectfully declined the request for heritage designation of the property located at 352 Chippewa Road pursuant to the provisions of Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, RSO 1990, Chapter 018. And Roseanne Shields is here in attendance to speak to the report.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on that? Councillor Bodnar? Questions or comments? Councillor Desmarais?
Thank you very much again. I had occasion to speak to Mrs. Shields at length about the designation, and it was explained to me, as it is in the reports, that this designation was given a draft approval in 2010, and then some changes were made, and now that approval has been taken back and it's been changed. It's now been decided by the committee to decline the approval. Mrs. Shields has explained to me at length the amount of material that has been amassed on about the property and the family. I've had a chance to read quite a lot. I had already been quite aware of it through some books that I got at Port Colborne Museum, where the family and the property is mentioned several times. I have sat on the Heritage Committee in the past, and I do understand what they're up against and how that goes. I'm hoping that Mrs. Shields would be able to go back to the committee and work through the issues that stand between them right now so that a designation can go forward. Mrs. Shields does have quite a lot of information. It just probably would have to be compiled in a slightly different way. And I have made some suggestions to her as to someone who may be able to assist her through that process, that she can go back to the committee and work with them. So what I'm asking is that Council consider referring this back to the committee and not making a decision tonight, letting it go back and letting both sides work on this a little more.
Are you going to move a motion for referral?
That's my motion, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do that now? Or do you want to? Go ahead. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. If she wants to speak first. Yeah. 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 Just a motion to refer. Before that, should we have Ms. Shields speak? Okay. And then she won't have to speak.
But you got a motion for you to deal with.
Okay. Yeah. Seconder for the motion then. Councillor Steele? All in favor? That'll be carried. Do we? She doesn't. And we'll put it out that, Ms. Shields, you won't have to make a presentation because we're going to throw it back to the committee, so you can save your presentation for the committee. How's that? Thank you for coming out though tonight. Move on to item 6. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division, report number 2013-6, subject results of awards for the RFP for the Community Leisure Guide that City Council authorized Community Services to award the request for proposal to the Tribune allowing the creation of a City of Port Colborne community leisure guide that will be produced twice annually for 4 seasons encompassing spring and summer and fall and winter productions.
Seconder to that? Councillor Demeray? Questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to thank staff for coming. We had sent this back and told staff they had requested money for it at budget time, and we had sent it back saying that, no, we're not going to put money towards it, figure out how to do it without it. And I'd just like to thank staff because so often they get the odd knock, but in this case, it is coming through with no cost to the city. Looks like it's going to be a quality production, and it'll get all the information out that we require. So once again, thanks to Community Services for bringing this forward at no cost to the city.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Harry, do you have any comments to that at all, or add anything?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, to members of council, a lot of work has gone into this by community services staff, and Brian Thiel, I'd like to acknowledge, is taking the lead on this. But we've put together a very aggressive timeline to get this production going. And so we're really working with other departments, other areas in the city and the municipality to get the information that we need. And we're actually quite comfortable working with the proponents that we've chosen based on our evaluation. So we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a dynamic production. Obviously, the first production, spring, summer, will be a little challenging because of the timeline. But once we get into a flow, ebb and flow with the proponent, we'll have a better handle on how the fall and winter production will be. And I think it'll be a good value to the municipality as far as what activities and events and opportunities there are for the municipality to participate in.
Thanks, Harry. Any other questions or comments? We're good? All in favor? And that'll be carried. Move on to item 7, Councillor Demeray.
Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division, report number 2013-7. Subject, request for proposals for the management and operation of Nickel Beach for the 2013 season. That the council hereby approves and authorizes staff to promote and distribute the request for proposal to the provision for the provision of Nickel Beach operations for the 2013 season. Okay.
A seconder to that? Councillor Steele? Comments or questions? Councillor Demeray?
Thank you. And I just lifted this very quickly just to ask a question. I just wanted to make sure that when this is done, council will have a chance to look at this proposal in detail and accept or reject it.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Demeray, absolutely. There's no question. I think it's definitely going to be a value for council to see the proper business proposal and hopefully something solid that we can certainly present to members of council.
Thanks, Harry. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Bodnar?
Just to comment on the timing of this, because being in the business of doing summer business, I just wonder that if we are going to do this at some time in the future, this is very late in the season to be putting this out. You almost have to do it the year before. I realize we're in a, we have to live with it now, but I would say in the future, we need to put it out a year before or a season before. There's lots for someone to do if they want to do an excellent job, and maybe they want to upgrade it quite a bit and do some other things. So they need longer lead time is all I'm saying. So if we look at it at another time, I'd like to see it even well before January, if not the summer before, if we know.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Harry? Comment?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Bodnar. We actually didn't really plan on this, quite frankly. It came across our desk rather quickly, and again, I'd like to thank my staff for pulling together the information that was required in putting something like this out. And certainly with any RFP that comes out of the community services, we want it as complete and concise as possible. And if it takes us extra time, we'll do it. But certainly we recognize the timeline as being tight. However, you know, it is what it is, and we're going to hopefully see what sort of feedback we get from the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call on the question. All those in favor? Let it be carried. And that is the last of the items for separate discussion. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Steele, Councillor Desmarais, all in favor? That'll be carried. Now move on to our council meeting. Mover and a seconder for the agenda? Yes, no? Oh, the two, I apologize. Madam Clerk, the addendum items.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There are 3 addendum items that I'd like to highlight for you this evening. The first is the correspondence from Josephine Davies in support of the application for heritage designation of Abraham Ramey Homestead. The second is the addition of Community and Corporate Services Report 2013-6 concerning the Municipal Infrastructure Investment Initiative and funding for an asset management plan. And finally, there's an addendum to the list of bylaws on your agenda this evening. We're adding a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with the Province of Ontario for the Municipal Infrastructure Investment Initiative. It's coming out of that report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we can get a motion to accept the agenda. Mover and a seconder for the agenda. Councillor Danch, Councillor Doucette, all in favor? That'll be carried. Any disclosures of interest? Seeing none. Oh. Yeah, we'll back up the disclosures of interest so I can declare another one. I have a pecuniary interest in closed session, the in-camera meeting afterwards on items C and D. Am I right? Just those two? As they pertain to a sale of land that the company that I represent may be involved in. So we'll have Councillor Desmarais chair that portion of the meeting on the in-camera session. Any other disclosures? Seeing none, we'll look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes. There's 2 minutes, 2 sets of minutes. Minutes of the 6th meeting special of council dated February 12th, 2013, and the minutes of the 7th meeting regular of council dated February the 25th, 2013. Mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Steele. All those in favor? That'll be carried. Any items requiring separate discussion? No? Seeing none. Look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of all the items then. Councillor Steele, Councillor Desmarais, all in favor? That will be carried. No proclamations? I get it easy for these 2 weeks. Keep going, keep going. We'll look for a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the boards, commissions, and committees. We have 1 set of minutes from the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting of January the 23rd, 2013. Look for a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Danch, all those in favor? That'll be carried. Notices of motion? Seeing none. Move on to the introduction, consideration, passage of bylaws. Madam Clerk.
That the following bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 3013, being a bylaw to appoint members of the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management. Bylaw 59253113, being a bylaw to temporarily close a section of King Street to vehicular traffic, April 13, 2013 and April 14, 2013. Bylaw 59263213, a bylaw to authorize certain capital works of the City of Port Colborne, to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, to authorize temporary borrowing to meet expenditures made in connection with such works, and to authorize long-term borrowing for such works through debentures by the Regional Municipality of Niagara. Bylaw 59273313, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with the Tribune for the creation of a City of Port Colborne Community Leisure Guide. And finally, Bylaw 59283413, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement of purchase and sale with J. Oscom Steel Fabricators Limited, the sale of approximately 1.21 acres of industrial land. And now, finally, Bylaw 59293513, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with the Province of Ontario respecting the Municipal Infrastructure Investment Initiative. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Bylaw 59303613, that it be read 3 times and finally passed. This is a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its special and regular meetings of March 11, 2013.
Moving to seconder, Councillor Butters, Councillor Bodnar. All those in favor? Are you sure? That'll be carried. If you look at the clock, it's been 63 minutes since we started, so let's keep going.
That's out by an hour.
I know. That's why well, it might even be 62 minutes, so we're doing well. We'll look for a motion to go in camera, and we'll go in camera to now proceed in camera to discuss the following matters. Confidential Community and Corporate Services Clerk's Division Report number 2013-5, subject appointments to boards and committees: Port Colborne Historical and Marine Museum Board, Port Colborne Public Library Board, and Port Colborne Seniors Advisory Council, pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239, subsection 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Item C, confidential memorandum from the Director of Planning and Development dated March 1st, 2013, concerning the potential sale of city-owned land pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239, section 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Item D, confidential economic development, tourism, and marketing report number 2013-2, concerning the potential sale of city-owned land pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239-2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Steele, all those in favor? That'll be carried. Before we go into closed session, I'd like to remind people that the next meeting will be March the 25th, starting at 6:30 here in Council Chambers. And don't forget to come out and support your local boys as they take on those dreaded Canadians from Welland. And let's hope that we take it 4 straight so we can get some rest for the finals, which I would think might be against St. Catharines the way things are going. So I'm sure that if the mayor was here, he'd probably issue a challenge to Mayor Sharp from Welland. But since he's not, I'd hate to suggest anything. about wearing a team's colors at regional council chambers after the series is over. But maybe the mayor can take that on if the series is still going on, or he could issue that challenge by himself. Well, if Mayor Sharp would accept the challenge, I would sure like to see the Port Colborne Pirates jersey being worn at regional council after we eliminate them. I'm not going to put a limit on what the series will be, but sure would be nice to see those colors, and I don't suppose that Mayor Badaway would have a problem if we were to lose, to reciprocate. So other than that, come out and see the boys Friday 7:30 at the new Valley Health and Wellness Center. Should be a good series. Hope to see everybody there. Motion to adjourn. Motion to go on camera. Councillor Butters, Councillor Demaray, all those in favor. That'll be carried. Thank you.